As many people can imagine, Valentine's Day is considered a very good day to do various forms of divination, especially when it comes to finding a future partner. This has both to do with the various traditions of Valentine's Day, a saint feast day heavily associated with a martyr that was under the Roman Emperor Claudius II. Claudius had basically instituted a ban from young people of soldiering age to marry. There also being medieval folklore that specifically the 14th of February is the start of mating season for birds. While not unilaterally true, it is significant enough that, yeah, a decent amount of bird species actually relatively start around this time. One tradition states that if a girl leaves their house early in the morning that day and the first person she meets is a man, then she will be married within 3 months, quite possibly to that particular man. There were, of course, other traditions that required at least a little more effort put in. This included wearing a yellow crocus plant in a buttonhole, as in literally buttonholes of a shirt. Get your mind out of the gullet. Further information on who your future spouse would be based on what birds were around. Generally, the first bird spotted, of course. If it was a blackbird, it was a clergyman. Not necessarily limited to priest, could be a deacon, but something along those lines. A bluebird, a happy or a poor man. A crossbill was a quarrelsome man. A dove is a good man. A goldfinch is a rich man. A robin, a sailor. A sparrow, a farmer. Or a woodpecker would imply that no spouse this year. There's also a lot of sources that talk about Valentine's Day being the day for preparing eels for the purpose of magic, but I have literally only ever seen it so vaguely put. Just for some reason, Valentine's Day and using eels for magic is a thing. There's just seemingly no information on why we need the eels. You know about any particular spells or methods of divination that are really good for Valentine's Day or are traditionally done on Valentine's Day? Please either leave them in the comments or, make your own video and tag me. So a lot of sources that talk about Valentine's Day being the day for preparing eels for the purpose of magic, but I have literally only ever seen it so vaguely put. Just for some reason, Valentine's Day and using eels for magic is a thing. There's just seemingly no information on why we need the eels. So I did a little bit of research on this because I know eels are important in a variety of cases, at the very least symbolically in a lot of Celtic, be that Irish or Scottish or Welsh, as well as kind of what we can figure is early Breton myth. But, I didn't originally find a lot of sources that talked about using the eels specifically for magic, but since making that previous video, I have found a little bit of something. Now, eels have a lot of crossover with snakes for a variety of reasons. The Olifeist is considered a dragon-type creature, and its appearance can be either snake-like or eel-like. So there's a little bit of symbolism there, although, at least from what I was taught, the Olifeist is a dragon. It used to have wings, and then it was given this more snake/eel-like appearance for, effectively, crimes against dragonkind. But still, it's a symbolism that is there and has been, described using the word for eel. Horsehair that is left in the water is said to turn into eels, so there's also a lot of significance there. There is a cure for baldness that is extreme. It involved burying an eel in a dunghill until it had broken down to an oily liquid, and you rub that on the scalp daily. There's probably better modern ways to cure baldness. Although something that I did not immediately know is that eels are heavily associated with holy wells, and specifically the eels around those have a tendency to be good omens. If you were praying at such a well and an eel was going towards the well, it effectively meant that the person you were praying for would be cured of whatever ailment you were praying about. And a lot of the times, the eels that existed in wells were said to be protective fairies. And I'm saying fairies here partially because this seems to be a myth in Ireland, Wales, Britain, and Scotland. Eels have also been found, or rather, the remains of eels have been found at a Mesolithic site at Mount Sandel in County Derry, implying either a regular enough usage of eels as either food or ritual ingredients. Which, especially if it's literally just eating eels, this would contradict with Scottish lore of eating eels would cause madness. But the skin of eels do seem to be at least regularly used in magic enough that I can at least find some sources that seem reliable about it. Particularly, there is an Irish folk medicine of if you have pains in your knee, the skin of an eel wrapped around your knee should help it. The Museum of English Rural Life also specifically mentions the skin being used as a cure for cramps. And excuse my pronunciation, but rheumatism? Both as garters and effectively put around amulets, which, especially for association with Valentine's Day, I imagine definitely something you would want to avoid and would be probably a decent seller that day, and in general for that season. So, yeah, I at least now have more informational information on why eels would be used in magic in the Celtic Isles.